On tonight's Cover One Buffalo podcast, we talk Hard Knocks, James Cook extension, injury reports. But first, our guys, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing?
Dude, I am living the dream. Teacher assignments came here this week. That means summer's almost over.
Yeah.
I'm much more excited than my kids were when I was like, letters are here, school's coming.
Tomorrow is like orientation day. My daughter is going to school tomorrow to do like walkthrough stuff and learn where her classes are. And she's going from like elementary to middle school, where now it's like changing classes and lockers and all that kind of stuff. So
love that.
Yeah, it's time. Yeah, we are not sad that like school's back.
School's back. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Okay.
But no, it has been the fun thing about the end of summer is the Buffalo Bills and training camp and all this stuff. Like right before my vacation, getting to go to training camp was super cool with the kids. We had a great time doing that. And just every year we're excited for Hard Knocks. That's sort of part of like that end of summer thing. And then this year we get to be, I sent you the text of like me and the boys getting ready, having some popcorn last night. So having the Bills season, I told Dell when he does the Mafia Con, that's like the new ring in for me of the Bills season. And then it's like every week there's something. And we got more coming here today, but it's good to finally we actually get to talk about real football that was played and like hitting and tackling and Buffalo Bills stuff. So the end of summer's a little bittersweet in a lot of ways, but it means Bills season's close. So breakfast sandwiches are going to start getting cooked up. Some ribeyes are going to start getting cooked up here soon. Right. We're going to get back into what we love the most.
Yeah, I'm excited. First, I want to give a quick shout out to our producer emeritus, Chris Kepner, who will always be near and dear in our hearts. But we have a new producer for this season. Colin Ritchie's going to be helping us out this season. Looking forward to it. And he's going to be coming up and asking some questions for you guys. So throw some questions in the chat. He'll be jumping on with us later on during the show, asking some of the best questions that come up during the chat. So huge shout out to Chris. He was always fantastic for us, and we'll miss him dearly, but looking forward to this great season with Colin moving forward. You mentioned it here before we get into our first segment here. How are you dealing with all the drama and how crazy Hard Knocks is?
Yeah, right. We were talking a little offline, right? You brought up Joe's tweet about being another fan base and being stuck watching this kind of drama less. Like even the James Cook thing, obviously now in hindsight, which we'll talk about that later, they kind of just like ran over and then transitioned into a Ray Davis segment pretty quick. So that wasn't even really the drama that I think they were hoping for. But this is what we're saying offline, Greg. I do think Hard Knocks of the past that have been dramatic or have had like a little bit of a weirdness is teams that are, what was the old rule? It was like you had to miss the playoffs the year before. It was like if you didn't have a new coach or something like that you could get into Hard Knocks. And you had teams that were struggling to find a quarterback. There was like much more intrigue and like who's going to lead this team, how are they going to improve, versus coming to a team that's won their division 5 years in a row, has stability at the most important positions. Like that's just not as fun. You're just going to get a well-run organization and that's probably boring, right? Good football from Sean McDermott organization is probably not like the best.
Yeah, it's actually funny. So Cam Murray here, who's a consistent contributor in our awesome Discord channel, producer Colin was saying before the show that he saw somebody mention that maybe this is the like HBO's way of getting back in the good graces of the NFL. That like, hey, we don't have to like expose all your dirty laundry like we did to Joe Shane. Like you can come on and it'll be normal. Like maybe they tried to want to have a well-run, buttoned-up organization just to kind of get back.
Joe Shane might have done that to himself, but
yeah. I think that probably didn't help themselves. But I won't lie. Like this is complete fan service. Like this is just straightforward. Just throwing up lollipops to the fans of the Bills, and I don't care about other fans. So like, I don't care. I'm having a great time. It's really, really fun. It's just constant glorification of Josh Allen, which is delightful. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. My wife and daughter are watching it. My nephews and my whole family's watching it. It's great. So I'm having a great time. We'll see what the ratings are and what the numbers are and everything like that. But I'm enjoying it pretty thoroughly.
It's it's totally awesome. Most things aren't for me. Like I'm a pretty niche person, so like the popular cool things aren't for me. This is. It's like specifically for me, and it hits all the things I need. But most importantly, Greg, I think the most important thing for me is my kids are at this like real unique age where you're starting to really have those core memories, right? Like when I look back at my childhood, it's this like 6 through 12 age range where like you really lock in on some of this stuff, like your favorite teams. And obviously they're from Buffalo, so they're going to have a bunch of that, but like them locking in to watch HBO and see like a glorification of Josh Allen and just how good of a guy he is and what fun he is. Really as a parent helping me with the propaganda that I'm trying to impart upon my children anyway. So kudos to HBO for helping me brainwash my children into becoming lifelong Bills fans, because that works. This is the best propaganda you can have to get somebody to join the Bills. But honestly, Greg, I've talked to a number of other people from other fan bases, and like I think they're kind of the same as like, I don't know, most Hard Knocks are not that. It is kind of a fluffing of whatever team. This team's just also better and easier to fluff.
Yes.
Like,
and it is the first time in, I don't know, ever, but in a long, long time that they've had like a genuine superstar franchise quarterback.
Correct.
Like it has not been those kind of teams in a long time, because you were never allowed to have a playoff team in there. So it was always the only chance was like if somebody was coming off an injury, or when Aaron Rodgers switched over, they're kind of clinging to hoping that it was still, still a superstar level. So it's interesting how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch into the first real meaty topic for the night, our Southern Tier Brewing Company What's Brewing topic. And nothing is more top of mind than the James Cook extension that was announced this morning. Brandon Beane's press conference said that they reached agreement about 11 o'clock last night and felt good. They were pleased that James was back in and practicing again. I know I've seen a lot of people debate, did the hold in cause this, or how much did it change it? I feel very confident that Brandon Beane did not go from, no, I'm not going to extend him, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, I didn't realize you were going to hold in, so now I'm going to extend you. Maybe there was a little bit of, wiggle room in the amount that was guaranteed. I could totally see that maybe they were at like 20 or 22 million, and now it was like, okay, fine, we'll do 24 and change and make it around 30 when we include this number. So it might have bumped it up a couple percentage points just to give them something to cling to. I think this kind of contract, again, not the exact number, but the announced number on Twitter was 4 years, 48 million. It seems like it's actually closer to 4 years, kind of 46. It's like 11.5 million a year. There's some incentives in there that could be achieved and some escalators that could hit later on if they make the playoffs and he plays more than 45% of his deal. The 30 million guaranteed does include this year's $5.3 million salary of what was already there. So he basically trades doing the extension. Now he gets 10.3 million this year instead of 5.3 million in cash. And his cap number goes down from like 5.7 down to like 3.6. So the Bills get a little bit of wiggle room. They lock him up going forward. Next year's cap hit is actually still very, very manageable. Next year's cap hit is still like 5.3 million. So it's nothing crazy for this year or next year. And then it goes into like 13 million-ish numbers the next couple years in 2027, 2028, and 2029, and they could get out of the deal in 2028 or 2029 if they need to. So he basically locked up a little bit of cash ahead of time this year. He for sure has a good 10 plus million in cash the next 2 years, and then we'll see based on the life of the contract. Yeah. So I was
thinking it's concerned. A 3-year deal.
Yeah, when they were talking asking for 15 million, or at one point asking for Saquon Barkley 20 million, like that was laughable. I'm not a pay running backs guy, so I probably even still would have moved on and just restarted the rookie clock. But at this number, at these cap hit numbers and this kind of basically 3 years, 31 million, I'm in. Like I can't complain. 3 years, 31 million for this year and 2 more years. I can't complain about that. That is a perfectly reasonable number. And any big James Cook fans should be ecstatic. And anybody who was like more on the draft and recycle at the running back spot, this is a manageable enough number for a dynamic athlete that you should at minimum be fine with this.
Yeah. Well, what you don't want to do is go into the draft having to draft, feeling like you have to draft high. I am on the camp of, I was on the same thing when I heard the initial ask of what Cook's camp was looking for, and the way that maybe he was acting seemed like that was more of a demand than an ask. I was like, I mentally prepared to walk away from James Cook after this year, let him play out his contract, see how that goes. I did not think they would meet this far towards what the Bills probably initially started at, and this is where you and I were. I think I was more on the, I'm willing to pay a running back now than maybe you are, but we both met around this like 11 to 12. We were saying like, get him in that range. And because I believe that's where his value is. I don't think he is a Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he is a Saquon Barkley, but I do think he's in that next tier in the top 10, maybe on the 6th to 8th best running back side. And I think that's where now he's going to slot in at being paid. And if you can make it a 2-year deal and continue to run him into the ground, this is a running back with very little tread for where he's at in his career. And so you have to apply some of that. And like Bean said, with all these guys that they were able to re-sign, and Greg, I want to get back to that at some point here in a second about how they were able to re-sign all of them, but they're all ascending players still, and I believe Cook's involved in that. But every time, how many times have we been proven wrong by Brandon Bean on this show? We're like, remember a couple years ago, we're like, he can't flip an entire offensive line in an offseason with the cap situation we have. And I remember making that graphic of all the upcoming free agents. It didn't even include McGovern, and question like, should I even put Cook? Because people will probably say he's a goner anyway. And nobody, when I posted that graphic of all the free agents, there was like 2 to 3 really want to keep Benford, would love to maybe keep Shakir, but nobody in their mind thought they were going to lock up all these guys.
Yeah, I think like the realistic take was, hey, 3 out of 5 is pretty good. Like I'd really like to lock up 3 out of 5. 4 out of 5 was like, hey, that would be awesome if we found a way to keep 4 out of those 5 guys. Like, hey, and it was always the default. Like, hey, James Cook's the one that's going to leave, and then like, hey, maybe Gregory Rousseau asked for too much and he prices himself out. Sure. I always felt the most confident in Bernard and Shakir because of one, the slot receiver and off-ball linebacker markets were more manageable, and because he's a captain. The relationship with Josh, I didn't think either of them were going to push for market-setting money. I was always the most nervous because cornerbacks get paid a ton, defensive ends get paid a ton. Yeah. I was the most nervous, but I then had Rousseau and Benford in the next bucket, and I always had Cook as like far off in his own tier of like. And I know Drew and the guys over at Rockpile threw it back in my face, but up until this morning, I stuck to I'll believe Brandon Bean pays a running back when I see it because he had never done it, and he did today, and he did, and now we know that that's one of the things he had never traded out of the first round before. He had never traded down. There's been a long list of things he had never traded away a first round pick for a player until he did it. Like those things,
it always is. Yes, he's willing to do anything to get this team in a spot where it needs to be, and I do think this will go down as a good deal for the Bills, barring obviously any injuries. I do think this is an ascending player. This is a guy. The last 2 years we've gone on here on the season wrap-up show and talked about how close he is to some of those high-end athletes. I still think we maybe overstate as a fan base how close he is to the Barkleys and McCaffreys. The data looks good, but he's not putting, like, the team isn't on James Cook's back. He's an accessory to Josh Allen, so he shouldn't deserve to get that high-end contract, but slotted in right where he is. I think this is the market. I think the Bills got a fair market value. And in terms of, you talked out to start this with the hold in and how it went, I honestly think it was just a little bit of Cook's agent's lack of experience in dealing with I think he's dealing with a shark in Brandon Bean, who's an experienced guy at this. and they brought a big number. Bean was like, "That's cute. Like, get back to me when you're really ready to have a conversation." Yeah. And they kind of just flailed from there for like 2 to 3 months and did a little flailing online. And ultimately, I think they ended up pretty close to what Bean probably originally offered. And that hold in or whatever, to your point, was probably like, well, we want something. Like, you got to give us something at the end.
And I won't pretend to be like fully plugged into exactly who represents who, but I'll tell you that up until the last little bit, there was only one name of one agent listed in the NFLPA database of who James Cook's agent was. And when the tweet came out from Schefter and Pelissaro, that message had a different guy's name on it. It listed two. It listed least, and it also all of a sudden listed another agent involved. So I don't know if this is like
stepped in. I was like, hey.
Like, and I don't know that a lot of them, it's kind of an umbrella company and like almost like a franchise of like, hey, I run this portion. So I don't know if like one of the senior guys stepped in to help here, but I was not familiar with that name. And that's the first time I saw another guy being involved. I'm kind of curious. Was that somebody else stepping in here to be like, hey, James, I took a look at this offer that's been out there from the Bills. I think you ought to sign that. You know, like, I don't know. That is complete speculation. I'm connecting dots here. I don't have any inside information. I just was very interested that when the tweet came out, I was like, hey, that's not the name of the agent listed in the NFLPA database as James Cook's agent. I wonder why he's the one that is being referenced and credited by Schefter and Pelissaro and Rappaport for closing this deal. That's interesting.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, so I just found that to be interesting when I saw that come out. So again, the way these numbers end up falling out, I think right now it would pay him as like the 7th or 8th best running back. I've always referenced that. Not that I think Bills fans watched a ton of week in, week out Packers games before, but peak Aaron Jones is super similar to what James Cook, like super quick and electric, not a traditional bell cow banger guy. I know the Josh Jacobs contract comes up a lot, but Josh Jacobs is way closer to a Ray Davis than he is a James Cook. Maybe even a combination of the two. But Aaron Jones was always a great comp to me, and he signed 3 years, $33 million. Kyren Williams is super similar in that mold. I know Kyron's probably a better blocker than James Cook, but James Cook's more explosive than Kyren Williams. Like, they're similar in their overall skill set and what they bring to a team. So again, as someone who has been pretty openly against signing running backs, I can't be mad at this deal. I think it's a nice number. I think that it's one. I know Jeremy White said that he thought James Cook won this negotiation.
Okay.
Getting Brandon Beane to reach his first running back extension ever as a GM, sure. I think that's one way to put it. I don't think it's a number that we're going to look back on and be frustrated with or disappointed with. Obviously, everyone is injury contingent. If he stays healthy, I don't think it's a number we're going to look back on and be disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a ton about negotiations. Like, I don't do it every day, but it also, I don't know if you win your negotiation when you start at 15 and you end up at whatever, 10 and a half.
11 and a half.
Yeah, 11 and a half. Especially when the other guy probably started like at 11. I think.
Maybe 10. Maybe he might have, the first number might have been 10 flat or something like that.
Somebody came
he ended up coming up to 11 and a half.
Somebody came much further off their number, I think, than the other. And I don't think it was Brandon Beane in this scenario. So that would make me have a hard time saying like Cook won out, because I don't think Beane came far off his number. It might have been more than any other running back in this scenario. Obviously, Singletary wasn't going to get something like this. They obviously see him as a part. And I honestly wonder how much Josh Allen maybe has in Beane's ear. We know he loves James Cook and being part of this offense. I know fans look at the running back position and think, we can just draft. We can just continue to replace. And everyone was quick, even me, to see even Ray Davis get an opportunity. But I do think Cook is something special that, yeah, you can draft and replace it, but you are taking a little bit of a grasp on getting that elite speed that he has already shown he can have, and that big playmaking ability that none of the other guys really do provide on this offense.
Yeah. And again, I love this trio because we now have this trio in the backfield this year and next year. We're locked into 2 years.
Ty Johnson move.
Ty Johnson's
great now.
signed for this year, and Ty Johnson has a little more James Cook to him than I think some people were ready for. I was okay with the idea if we had to survive with Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and Frank Gore Jr., but the fact that we now have it locked in under contract this year and next year, James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson is fantastic. Yeah. We would go into 2027. We'd still have James Cook and Ray Davis. We'd be in a position, very, very positively there. So
and Frank Gore Jr. is going to be huge in 2027.
By 2027, he's going to be ready. Yeah. So again, I think this is very solid, and again, coming from somebody who would, admittedly would not have done this deal.
Yeah,
I can't be upset. Like, this is a very positive number. It's very manageable, and I can see plenty of questions in the chat that we'll get to later on about what this means for some other players. Before we do that, let's jump right into our next segment. I've been following a lot of our dear friend Dr. Kyle Trimble on some of the injury reports here, and I have ridden the training camp roller coaster like everybody else. We've had a lot of dings. I see people being carted off, and some other teams who have had some really nasty, like, season-ending stuff already. The Eagles have had multiple offensive linemen having surgery. We've had some pretty nasty stuff in some other teams. So I'm not going to feel too bad for us that we've had a ton of short-term dings, but so far, I'll knock on some wood, we have not had the major things, but we've had, the scare with Terrell Shavers, then a little more serious with Max Harrison, ended up not being the end of the world. A little more serious with Khalil Shakir. Again, seems to be weeks, not months. Yeah. The ones we've had, it looks like we might have everybody for even week 1 of the season. Yeah, the Chargers lost their friend, they lost their Deion Dawkins, Rashawn Slater, their franchise left tackle, out of the Chargers, plus Will Clapp, and just a lot of teams have had it worse than us. So I want to share to Bills fans, hey, I know seeing the number of injuries is very deflating for us, but we've actually been a little more fortunate in the short-term nature of it. I was excited to hear Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop were back in practice today, but it was sandwiched with Deion Dawkins didn't come out for practice, so I'm trying to regulate my my emotions here.
Yeah, I mean, this is also part of a fine balance for this team as being a team that has won multiple division titles in a row here. There's they won't ever say it as an organization, like they're still playoff caliber and saying all the right things, but there is a focus on football beyond, into January, going into February. And I do think at this point in the year, especially with some of these veteran guys, you have to be careful. And I know, there's a fine thread that they're got to weave with a guy like Cole Bishop. And there's the concerning comment that Sean McDermott made, and a lot of people kind of read into differently about him not getting enough reps, and worrying about that. But we still have some time to go here for real games. And I, even with a team as good as this with Josh Allen, I'm willing to live through some of the annoyances of players maybe missing time in the preseason to get their legs under them for the first month of football. We just live in a different environment with a team with high expectations. And we saw teams for years, Patriots, the Chiefs even still do it, where there's a little bit of a slow start. And we might not be following those teams as close as we do to the Bills, but the reason some of the slow starts happen is because of injuries in camp and guys not getting on the same page and taking a little bit of time and figuring some things out. I'm willing to be patient and knowing that I'm not worried about Deion Dawkins. Be really cool with his back. When it's game time, I know Deion Dawkins is a baller. I feel the same way about Spencer Brown. Take care of that back. Don't put any extra reps on him that we need. The concerning ones are Cole Bishop, because you're looking for that growth here in year 2. Early on with some of the tight end injuries, some of those positions get a little scary, but these offensive lineman ones, let these guys go. And honestly, in these games, get Vandermark some reps, because if other guys are losing their tackles, I'd happily dangle a Bears game of Vandermark dominating the Bears out there for Bean to get some trade ammo. So
give Tylen Grable reps, give Vandermark reps, get Alec Anderson, get him back. I know it sounds like Cedric Van Pran Granger we won't get back until probably into the season here. I actually saw Sal Capaccio had clarified you can actually convert him right over into the regular season PUP or the regular season version of it. Wasn't injured reserve, it was actually like a in-season PUP without having to take up a 53-man roster spot. So some of these, Max Hairston, Cedric Van Granger, I don't think Shakir is going to be in consideration, but a handful that, like, obviously Van Granger and Hairston are obviously clear roster locks. But they might be some roster shenanigans week one where, like, hey, if you're just ramping back up and you're not going to be ready to play the first 3 or 4 weeks, why don't we just use the IR and hide you and not have to cut 2 more? That's like honestly, that's
especially
a Terrell
with
Shavers.
The suspensions and
That's a Terrell Shavers. That's keeping both Cam Lewis and Jordan Hancock. That's like those kind of situations. That's keeping it was going to be Jack Thompson and Balen Spector, but Balen Spector solved that himself. It's just those kind of situations. It's not having to release one of the young defensive linemen. It's being able to keep 10 of them, even with the 2 guys suspended. It's those kind of situations. Or to your point, it's keeping both Vandemark and Grable. Like, we can keep 10 offensive linemen. Like, so some of those things I do expect to be a little bit of a cushion, but I agree. I'm not overly concerned. Matter of fact, I think if I understood right, Brandon Bean or maybe McDermott commented that the hope was that Deion Dawkins could practice against the Bears on Friday in the joint practice. So if that's even a consideration, this isn't a thing. If that's even a possibility that he might do, because the joint practice is, like, honestly, a step above a preseason game. Like, there's more intensity sometimes for those, especially because starters play more reps in the joint practice than they do in preseason. Then I'm not concerned at all.
Deion's got to be like top 3 guys I'd be concerned about getting in a fight at a joint practice.
Yes.
Alec Anderson's got to be up there.
Spencer
Brown's right there. Yeah. But then Deion's like right there.
Yeah. Yes, correct. That they would be right there at the top of my list of guys who would get into a scrap with the team.
Correct.
So yeah, from an injury standpoint, I think that we're better off than a lot of fans are fearing, just because it's been a wave and there's been a huge number. So, like, I'm not giving anybody a hard time of it does feel like that. And EB here talking about our roster is deep. Does Bean swing a trade? That's 100% contingent on what we just talked about. They have to be truly expendable in that sense. So, if we had talked about before, like, Landon Jackson and Javon Solomon have to both be having awesome camps to make AJ Epinesa actually expendable.
Correct.
Cedric Van Granger probably has to be healthy to make Kendrick Green available in a trade. Like, there's some of those things where, like, hey, we might need those guys for a period of time. And some of them, it might only be 3-4 weeks. It might be until the suspension guys come back. Like, there's some guys who won't, or when Harris is ready to be activated, that might be, hey, Jamarcus Ingram, you only get 4 weeks a run here, but you might need him for those 4 weeks. So
yeah,
I do think we have 56 NFL roster caliber guys on this 90-man roster, maybe even a little bit more, that you probably could in a perfect world. But with the 2 defensive linemen on suspension and now multiple guys maybe being able to be hidden on the early season IR, I think it decreases the likelihood of the cut down day trade. I felt much more confident in it beforehand. Now I think it's maybe slightly less likely, just because I think we're going to use some of those guys for at minimum the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, hopefully the injury bug doesn't grow, and those things don't become the considerations here that we're thinking. But honestly, this reminds me a couple years ago during the season. Also, I think the Bills are a little liberal and loose with the injury report. Like, even during seasons, they'd had to adjust the spacing on them to like fill it. But a lot of it wasn't like, we had people that were online that were kind of like weeded out the BS ones, and then it was like, oh, there's 4 actually here that we care about and need to consider as serious. And that has really kind of felt how the preseason has felt to me. Obviously the Shakir one is probably one of my bigger concerning ones, just because we've seen players struggle to come back from injuries like that 100%. And I want him at 100% coming back here early in this offseason. But the other ones don't seem, I think Rapp and Bishop are going to be fine. I guess you could say concerning that Bishop is starting already out with his career here, struggling to get and stay on the field is a concern. But as people don't want to hear it, the depth's pretty good in terms of depth, right? At this position. So assuming that he's going to play some amount of games, it's got to feel good that you have some depth available, even if it's just Cam Lewis being that depth. And like you said, maybe keeping Hancock and Lewis here a little bit while he recovers and deals with whatever he needs to.
Yeah. And so Ron brings up one there with Mike White and Mitch Trubisky.
Sure.
Is that one where are they more interested in keeping the quarterback room together and having one of those guys on practice squad, or could they get something by shipping one of those guys off? It has to be like enough to make it worthwhile. We'll see where that goes.
A team's got to be in a pretty rough situation to trade.
So let's use the Jets. And I know that it sounds like it's going to be pretty minor, but Tyrod Taylor had a knee injury that required surgery.
Okay, sure.
So that would be like, hey, we don't have a backup. And it's just Justin Fields. That's a team where it's like, hey, all right, we'll send you
we kind of have
our fifth for Mike White and a sixth. Yeah. Like that kind of thing could be feasible where you could actually see it. One other injury when I saw Eric here asking about Josh Palmer, I noticed because I saw a bunch of like Josh Reed was talking about his mummy leg wrapping around. And I saw Kyle Trimble did a write-up on there where they all, like both Sal and Josh Reed, talked about how good Palmer looked in practice, even with his leg wrapped. And I'm watching one of the videos right now by Sal Capaccio, and he just had a really violent cut and looked just as quick and as fast as he has been. So obviously it's not that bad because he practiced pretty much in full, even though he had like a weirdly heavy wrap around his leg. So again, he was dealing with the groin earlier this month. Maybe there was a flare up. Maybe there was something with the push off that was there. So it wasn't enough to even hold him out from practice today. But it is something to watch just because we've had Curtis Samuel hasn't practiced in a while. We saw Shavers went out and came back. We saw Jalen Virgil and KJ Hamler dinged up. Like pretty much Keon Coleman's been the only one who's practiced consistently. Shakir, we know, is done for camp and preseason. Hopefully everything's good to get him back for week 1. But we've had a lot of dings at receiver that's made it a little bit weird here. Elijah Moore has been in and out. He has been consistent. So hopefully the Josh Palmer thing is as minor as it looks, but right now it does look pretty minor.
Yeah. Well, good thing Shavers is so good.
Obviously. Right. Hey, so, I'm coming around to the idea that
he makes plays.
If the biggest thing is people have to realize the reason Mac Hollins was on the field all the time is because he was just a demon on special teams. Like guys like Shavers have to follow that path, be a gunner, be able to cover on punts, be able to be out there and doing those things that genuinely contribute and that let you have a jersey on game day. And then because I think what people underestimate is there are a lot of guys who are capable of playing wide receiver on Sunday. The issue is you only actually need 4 of those. You have to be better than the other guys. So to be the 4th or 5th guy, you have to get a jersey by playing special teams. And a lot of NFL receivers, you see it when the injuries happen. You see guys forced in to play from injury. If you're good enough to be on a roster in the NFL, you can catch passes and you could probably run after the catch and you could probably do most of the things that you need to do because you don't get that opportunity unless you're already good enough to do that. But to be better than the top 3 or 4 guys, it's hard to get those jobs. So the other guys have to do it by playing special teams. Terrell Shavers, just receiver, is probably pretty close to NFL roster caliber already. It's just, can you do enough to get a jersey on game day? And that's going to be playing special teams. And if he can do that, I'm becoming more and more open to like, hey, maybe he should push for one of those. Maybe we should keep 6 and be able to have a guy that can do that because we don't have the traditional gunner like we've had before. It looks like it's going to be Dorian Strong, one of the DBs, and it's usually one of the receivers. Maybe it's 2 DBs now. I know they had Laviska Shenault and Brandon Codrington playing some coverage too, trying to fight for those guys. Again, the more things you can do, helps you get that roster spot.
Absolutely. Anything else for our friends here?
No, I think appreciate everything. Our guys over at William Mattar Law Offices are fantastic. You know the slogan, hurt in a car, call William Mattar, 844-444-4444. Appreciate them very, very much.
I got to say, I picked up this Sharpie pen. William Mattar, her in the car, Sharpie pen. They gave me at one of the things we went to. One of the best pens I have. I almost lost it the other day. My kid took it. He was using it. And I was like, hey, no, we're not going to.
I will say the gifts that they give out for their media partners are pretty nice. Like he's a generous man. He really is. Like he's a good dude.
The marketing team was like, take as many pens as you want. And after I used this pen, I looked at my wife. I was like, I should have grabbed a few more of these pens. They probably were serious. Take as many as I want. But anyways, I digress.
Before we pivot into our new segment with producer Colin here, any takeaways from the preseason game? I know it's hard to go through there, but there was a couple. I had a couple of nuggets.
Yeah, for me it was tough too. I did not get to watch during. I was busy family vacation, so I kind of watched after, and like I didn't watch it all in one sitting. So it took a couple days for me to watch the preseason game. So it was a little wonky for me watching it. But one thing I want to address here with you is I gave you a really hard time this year about Bosa. Nikki G coming in here and saying Bosa looks like an absolute monster. And that's degrading the word. I mean, he definitely visually looks like it's a lot of man. If you see the thumbnail,
his arms are enormous. His arms,
you know what's crazy
so
is
huge.
We were on the field with him. I got a picture of him with my kids, like just standing next to him on the field with the other big guys. He definitely was big, but he didn't like stand out as like. But then you see those pictures of him when he's like engaged and his muscles are going. It's like, holy cow, that's a large human being. But I do want to say, like in the limited that I saw and looked at, he looked really good. He looked confident. He looked healthy. And what show was I watching where they were talking about it was some podcast that the Bills were on and talking about how like underrated, it might have been McAfee, a clip from McAfee, but how underrated it is that Bosa is just like people are forgetting Bosa's on the Bills. Like that it's just flying under the radar. And that is also intriguing because I thought the hype would come with the name and signing to a Super Bowl contender, and that would like annoy me and we'd have to live with this huge hype that he's going to be the thing that changes it. If he can just fly under the radar and look like he looked here to start the preseason on a snap count, I'm going to start to get really excited like you did.
So I think he was my number one takeaway was the fact that he was healthy enough and they were comfortable enough that he played a couple drives was really nice. He did exactly what I talked about. He's never going to be that like bendy, Von Miller guy with the wave move and like bending his ankles like crazy down to turn the corner. But he walked their tackle back into the backfield just at will over and over and over again and just collapsed the pocket and crushed it down. He, again, I think you brought up right after the signing that one of his biggest benefits is what a good run defender he is. He had a couple really nice plays there, also collapsed the pocket for some throwaways. And just, again, we don't need, peak defensive player of the year Joey Bosa for this to work out. It's a 1-year, $10 million deal. He's incentivized to play well and to get himself another deal. If he's anywhere close to that, and again, we saw the couple plays at the cap ends of last year, the playoff game at the end, the opener at the beginning of the season, it's all keeping him healthy. And if we have the other guys who are contributing, again, AJ Epinesa is nobody's favorite, but he's an NFL caliber player. Like he is going to play snaps in this league. Gregory Rousseau can play a lot of snaps. Javon Solomon keeps making flash plays. Hopefully Landon Jackson's ready to contribute as we get closer. He had a very first game as a rookie, player. He missed a tackle on one play, lined up offsides in Jordan Hancock's play. So everybody is now like completely down on Landon Jackson. He was fine. Yeah. He was fine in that game, but he wasn't amazing, but he was fine. He wasn't some disaster. But I do think that seeing some of those things were very, very encouraging to be able to go through.
Yeah, before we get into any questions too, when it comes to the preseason, I think one of the cooler moments that I saw this year in Hard Knocks, for me anyway, was I think it was on the first episode and Sean McDermott talking to the team. And those ones are tough because I feel like when the cameras are on, not everybody's always 100% authentic. But this felt authentic when he was talking about not being afraid to fail, to go out there. And he was specifically talking about training camp, but I think that they do have that vibe in the build. Like we know things are going to be good and consistent, and we're not going to get the best out of you guys unless you are afraid to fail, and not in the way that Landon Jackson failed lining up. And I'm sure Sean McDermott's not okay with those kinds of failures, but in giving guys that security that just every time you make a failure isn't going to be the end of your job. Like, we're giving you permission to go out there and get it out of your system now and learn from these mistakes. And now the preseason is the time for that. So there's I did see a lot of frustration on certain plays with certain players. And it's like, I have a really hard time getting too upset at the preseason when like it's vanilla and guys are working on certain techniques and they're, rookies are just even learning the game and just being present in the game. So it's hard to take too much out of it, which sounds kind of homerish because we're also saying like, yeah, Joey Bosa looks good.
Well, and I'm sad you didn't even talk to me about Dan Walker and his amazing play.
Well, I figured you would talk about that enough. I wanted to apologize for kind of pulling the rug out on you with Joey Bosa a little bit, and that I'm coming around to the idea.
Yes, I like it. Welcome aboard. It's delightful in here. I do think that both Deanne Walker and TJ Sanders had some nice flash plays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Landon Jackson had any great flash plays. I think those 2 snaps have really, kind of clouded people on like how bad he was. He did miss a bad tackle and he did line up off sides on an interception. Other than that, he was fine. Like he was fine. He lost contain on a play that I wasn't happy about, but it was a rookie's first game in the NFL. I'm not concerned. TJ Sanders had one of those crazy like teleport jump cuts that makes me very excited, where like you're watching the film and I just watched the cut up that other people had, but like it almost looks like a glitch where he goes from the guard's one shoulder to all of a sudden he's in the other gap immediately. And like, that's the thing that when a 300-pounder does that, that's really exciting to be able to see. And then obviously Deanne Walker did a very similar one with a swim move, got right in, I don't know if it was Dart. I think it was Jackson Dart, right in his face. I think it was after Russell Wilson had come out, batted down the pass, got his hands up there, had another one where he had a nice pressure. So again, that's what you want those guys for. You don't need consistent, amazing play, but you want them to make, contributing moments and flashes, and having those right off the bat in the first game was encouraging to see.
Yeah, one of the other more exciting things that sparked my interest was Matt Milano was flying around pretty good in this game.
That very first one, hitting that swing pass where he snagged the running back right out of the sideline, and that was like vintage Milano closing speed that you love to see.
I'm starting to think he's back, like back, closer to back than maybe we thought. I don't think he'll ever maybe necessarily be all the way back in terms of athleticism, but I think now being removed from that injury, his name just keeps popping up at camp. Every time somebody was there, they're like, "Well, Milano might be back. I think he is. I think we saw it in real game speed, and that's going to be very encouraging. If we get Terrell Bernard playing at the level he's played the last 2 years, and a Milano back to even close to where he was 2 years ago, that's a very dynamic middle of the field with it throwing to Taron Johnson. And the Bills can get a lot done.
All right. So without further ado, let us debut our newest segment where we will bring up some of the best questions here in the chat, and fantastic producer Colin Ritchie. Colin, how are we doing?
People. Great. You guys have put on a great show so far. It's been fun being in the green room, just listening to you guys talk about, Hard Knocks and James Cook. Obviously a very eventful day with the Cook contract, but excited to get into some questions. We had some great ones. Greg, I know you were anticipating some questions about maybe potential future extensions. Ron was asking about that, with Jessica bringing up maybe Connor McGovern specifically, the same way Spencer Brown got extended before the season started last year.
So I do think that it would be disingenuous for me to say that, it's no big deal if signing James Cook has no impact on anything, because that's not true. Like there is a finite amount of resources and a finite number of cap dollars as we go forward. I don't think it's a prohibitive number to where now it means, we can't extend Torrance, we can't extend McGovern, we can't extend Edwards. I know those 3 come up a lot. I do think it's very reasonable that with doing this, it is going to be a conversation where Bean's going to go to Aaron Cromer and they're going to talk and say, hey, do you think Alec Anderson and Tylen Grable can compete for that left guard job and we can let Edwards walk? Hey, do you think Cedric Van Pran-Granger can step in for Connor McGovern? I will say this is probably some pretty bad timing for Van Pran-Granger, because if he could have come in here and really showed out in camp that like, hey, we really can't believe the flash, we got to find a way to get him on the field, maybe that is a little something in Bean's pocket. Having him not there at all maybe is a little bit of leverage for Connor McGovern in his representation here. So I do think there's kind of an either or element there. I feel the most confident that we see Osiris Torrance extension next year, similar to the guys we just did now, going into the final year of his rookie deal. I think that we will see an extension there. I think that's more likely than not. And I'm 50-50 on whether we see a Connor McGovern. I do think we've probably built the infrastructure where we can likely let Alec Anderson and Talon Grable compete for David Edwards' replacement. So I would say there's probably, 30-40% chance that we could have both Torrance and McGovern here. And I think there's a pretty good chance, 70-80% plus, that I think we at least keep Torrance. We'll wait to see on how things go. I do think that McGovern's one of those guys that if we don't see something before the season, it becomes a little less likely, and that he probably will at least find out what his market is in free agency. I think if we're going to, it'll be like a Spencer Brown. We're like, hey, the Wednesday before the first game, we hear that he's reached an agreement with Connor McGovern, that kind of thing.
When many are asking, not in the chat, but many people out in the world are asking, how much does this change when Brandon Bean trades for Terry McLaurin? Many are asking this.
Many are asking that.
Yeah.
I've been consistent the whole time, whether it's Terry McLaurin, whether it's
Trey Hendrickson,
whether it's Micah Parsons, which I got myself a little excited about.
Yeah.
Almost every team can make one splash move if they really want to. You can move the pieces around, and if you have an opportunity present itself that you just don't think you can pass up, like, hey, we have a chance to get a star player that moves the needle and genuinely impacts our odds of winning the Super Bowl. Almost every team can make one move like that. The Bills are right at the edge of it, but I rattled through a handful of things they could do. Like, hey, if we did this, this, and this, these restructures, we'd probably need to make one of these players need to go out in the deal to get the player to come back to you. So if it was Hendrickson or Parsons, it would probably need to be AJ Epinesa going with. If it was McLaurin, it would probably need to be Curtis Samuel going out. But if they're able to do that, it is feasible. It is possible to do those things. But, us being able to do it isn't the hard part of those deals. All three of those players are way, way, way more likely to play for Washington, Cincinnati, and Dallas this year.
Yeah. But if you believe in yourself, all things are possible.
All pizzas are personal pan pizza if you believe in yourself.
That's right. All right. What else we got, Colin?
We had another question from Now Move Ova saying, are there any positions you think the Bills will go dumpster diving if the right person gets cut?
I think I saw one in the chat earlier about maybe Ron of did we need to go look for a safety? I do think that, I don't think Derek Forrest has been some revelation. I think he's looked fine. I think DeMar Hamlin has continued to be fine. So then the injuries with Rapp and Bishop, Cam Lewis all of a sudden is playing more. I think safeties maybe one. And then our depth at linebacker losing Balin Spector and Shaq Thompson has looked good when he's played, but he's missed time too. So once you get past, and Dorian Williams missed time, so Joey Andreessen's gotten a lot of attention on Hard Knocks and looked good in the game. Like he's been really, really solidified now as like a roster lock, but we need more than 4 to go into the season. So I guess off the top of my head, I'd say safety and linebacker would be something I wouldn't be completely shocked if they did some player for player swap or some kind of cut down day waiver claim.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to adjust the bottom of the roster. I actually like the depth at both linebacker and safety. I could see them grabbing some guys just to keep filling in that bottom depth and get some competition, but I don't think you're going to get any, at least off the top of my head. I haven't looked at all like the roster bubble things around the league. I don't think there's going to be a lot of guys that step in and hop the depth that the Bills have. Correct. Even if injuries are
heck, Ulafosio actually made I noticed that Edefuan Ulafosio existed as a football player for the first time as a Buffalo Bill. I was like, oh, hey, I actually, way to go. Good job. Like he actually contributed. You saw his speed actually matter on a couple plays. And again, at depth linebacker, it's special teams. Like special teams are huge, especially with the way that the kick return has turned into like a zone running play over and over again, linebackers and safeties are critical in that kind of setting. So get yourself a roster spot, you Pushio.
Yeah, but you got, like, in the linebacker room, you've got a Dorian Williams, who's a low-end starter, high-end backup player, right? And I think in the safety room, I think you have DeMar Hamlin, who's I think is adequate to start for you at safety. But then I think Cam Lewis can do some things, and I am high on Hancock. I think Hancock can eventually, probably not right away, but I think he can at least provide the floor of a Cam Lewis with much more upside.
Dude, his closing speed on that one play where
he's a ball player.
He went, I think it was Takori Couch, I think was the other guy, but there was another Bills player that was closer to the defender, and he passes him and makes the tackle on the sideline, and it was like some warp speed stuff. It was really, really encouraging to see. That was exciting to be able to see.
He's the kind of guy when pads come on that is just gonna get coaches excited. I like these depth, but I just don't think, I think it's going to be the opposite from the question, which is there's going to be a lot of dumpster diving of the Bills roster.
I'm way more concerned about us getting our guys on the practice squad than I am us stealing somebody else's cut player.
Yeah.
All right. See if we can squeeze another one or two in here.
Yeah, we had Ron highlighting the same positions, asking about linebacker safety that the Bills trade for. You guys also mentioned earlier the Bills trading away maybe an offensive lineman if the depth is good. So do you guys think it's more likely we see the Bills trade for a player or trade a player away before the season starts or by the time the deadline rolls around?
For sure, trade away.
I am going to take a little bit of a page out of Von Miller's book and just put the type of like positive optimism that I want to see in the world out there. And I think the Bills are going to trade for a double-digit sack edge player. I think that's the most likely scenario that is going to happen. I'm putting that kind of positivity and energy out into the world, and nobody can stop me. It's the Von Miller approach.
I respect it. I'm so like I said before. People would be mad at me if they found out who and how much I would be willing to trade away for Micah Parsons.
Oh yeah.
Like fans would be really, really upset with me if you found out the names I would be willing to send to Dallas if it resulted in us getting Micah Parsons. Fans would be mad at me, along with we're lucky that you're only allowed to trade first round picks 3 years into the future, because I would give up way more than 3.
I would cripple our future.
Yes, sure. I would absolutely destroy our future assets if it meant we got Micah Parsons.
Ask Greg Vorse what I'm willing to trade for James Cook in our dynasty league.
I've seen the offers.
Yeah. So I am willing to go above and beyond to get the things I want.
All right, let's do one more question here before we wrap things up.
Yeah, so we have obviously a long list of Bills players dealing with the injury bug. Greg, you were dealing with the injury bug too. Any tips on recovering from an ankle injury? Maybe you can help the Bills out a little bit.
I will say first, a quick shout out to wonderful Dr. Kyle Trimble. He has not only been incredibly helpful, he has been incredibly thoughtful and checked in with me multiple times, asked how my recovery is going, has sent me video clips and suggestions for stuff to get to do my rehab at home. I've been very, very careful. So my recommendation and advice is listen to the people that you're working with, listen to your doctors, listen to the physical therapists. I've been very, very careful to do the elevation and ice to, make sure I'm doing my exercises and following up on all those things. Also threading the needle of like pushing myself a little beyond your comfort zone to make progress, but not so far to have a setback, like that, threading that needle in between there. I've tried really, really hard to do that. Once or twice I've had a little too much and I've paid for it that night in the next morning when it's been real sore when I wake up, but I've been real careful to keep like making progress without going too far. I'm wearing shoes. I'm walking around. I would say most people, if you saw me just walk up, I'm to the point now where most people probably wouldn't notice. If I'm really busy in a day and I get to the end of a day, I might start limping or hobbling or favoring it a little bit. But most times I'm now moving around to almost normal walking wise. I can't like run or jump or anything like that. Actually, my son took off at one point from me and I tried to push off to go after and immediately felt it because my instinct was like, hurry up and try to catch him. And I caught myself like, oh no, not ready for that. Not ready for that. So beyond like actual like explosive movements, I'm back close to normal.
Nice. I'm a little concerned that Greg saying trust your doctors is going to be our most controversial take on the internet and get us
Yeah,
a
apparently.
layer of YouTube comments we don't want to deal
Yeah.
with.
Oh God,
So thanks
I
for
don't
that,
need that.
Greg. But definitely
You're
trust your
welcome.
doctors.
You're
Definitely.
welcome. You're welcome.
Kyle's great. I've had a few injuries in the past where he did the same thing. Gave me some treatments, and honestly, like it's one thing when I was younger and injured, I never took like the physical therapy seriously because I just kind of got better.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
now that I'm old, like honestly,
Colin just heals. Like Colin could
correct.
break a leg. He'll just heal. Like when you're old, like us, it doesn't work like that anymore.
No, and the physical therapy really does. And I like to stay active. I play a lot of golf, right? And he had me, I had a wrist injury, and I don't have it anymore because I just I'm still doing the exercises that Kyle gave me. He still checks in to see how I'm
He's a
doing.
good
So
dude.
shout
He's
out
a
to
good
Kyle.
dude.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations, Colin. Fantastic work on your first segment here with us, asking questions for the chat. We'll do this throughout the season, probably on our preview shows and some of the other fun ones we have going on here. So,
Yeah.
well done.
Where can the
Excellent work.
people find you, Colin? Because you're also
Yeah.
doing the film room. You're going to be you're going to be around with Sal and Turf to Tape.
Yeah, I got a couple other fun things going.
Yeah, so in addition to the Cover One Buffalo podcast, I'm producing Turf to Tape with Eric Turner and Sal Capaccio. I also produce Sal's House streams, which he normally has on Thursday nights during the season, and then random times throughout the off season as well. You can find me on Twitter at @ColinRicchie_NFL. I'm writing for Buffalo Bills on SI as well. So I'm getting around the Buffalo media area. So I'm sure people will hear my name here and there when they're on different podcasts, different streams, reading different Bills articles. And obviously I'll be here with you guys answering all the questions that you guys send in. So make sure to keep those coming for future episodes.
Excellent.
Really excited to work with you, man.
Yeah, great work, everybody. Thank you for everybody in the chat. You guys were fantastic. On behalf of our fantastic team here at Cover One, our wonderful sponsors, William Mattar Law Offices and Southern Tier Brewing Company, we thank you very, very, very much. Please give us a like, a rating, a review on the way out. Let your friends know about it, everything that's going on. We're getting back into the season here. The biggest compliment you can give us is just tell other people about the show, share what's going on, let them know you think they'd enjoy it, and to share the link to have them check us out. But on behalf of our producer, Colin Ritchie, and my lovely partner in crime, Aaron Quinn, I'm Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.